All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started now. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I want to introduce myself. I'm Beth Yarzab, and I'm part of the certification team at canfitpro home office. I'm also a pro trainer, and I have been a pro trainer in the FIS program for 10 years. I've been teaching group fitness for 20 years, but I still remember actually going through my own certification journey and exactly the steps I had to take and the confidence I had to build to become a successful fitness instructor specialist. So for those of you who are just coming in to your certification program, amazing. You are going to love it. You are going to love canfitpro. It is just a fantastic organization.
Well, good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Ron McPhee. I'm a pro trainer. I've been a pro trainer for just over 11 years, and I have been teaching group exercise. I did the calculations, and I had a bit of a shock. For almost 27 years now, I've been teaching group exercise. That's where I started in the fitness industry. That's my passion and love. So to be able to be a pro trainer, to see all these people coming into the fitness industry with the same passion and love, I get very excited. Just like Beth said, that I remember when I took my certification, I remember how hard it was, specifically for Group X. It was finding that 32 count and the struggles I had. But the more passion and drive you have for it, it seems the more you'll get it. And I'm so excited that I get to do this and I get to be part of your journey, however it may be. So I'm very glad you're here today so we can talk about what to do with the FIS course.
Awesome. And I should mention that Ron is our pro trainer in Edmonton, Alberta. So we've got the Western Canada representing today, and I'm located just outside of Toronto.
So when it comes to preparing for your actual course, so you've registered, you picked the day, you got the time, you're all ready to go, your manual comes. Now what? A lot of anxiety starts as soon as that manual comes in, because now it's like, now what do I do? So the recommendations is read it, go through the manual. It's now yours. So a lot of things that we're going to recommend that we found very successful is going through the manual and reading the chapters. Going through the chapters, taking the time, because what's going to happen is when you get to the course itself, that is where we're going to actually apply all of these different things you're going to learn. So no, you probably won't know everything by the manual, reading it once, reading it twice, but this is the opportunity to go through the manual, pick up the chapters, make some notations, get cue cards, get sticky notes, highlight some sections, make notations for things that you may not feel comfortable yet, because when you come to the course, then what can happen is we can tap further into it. We'll explain it. We'll actually make it applicable to what you want to teach. Making questions. So when you go through it, there's lots of chapters where it talks about study points, things like this. Make up questions for it, and not just actually writing down word for word verbatim, but in your words, what are you trying to understand? In your words, what is it you're trying to study and trying to get through? The more notations you can make and kind of be prepared for the course, the more we can actually apply it to real life classes. Create review questions. So things to go through. What are the struggle points that you may not be perfect at? What are the points that you want to understand more of? Write down questions, and then going through it, the manual, and going online. There's a lot of other online components that you can find. There's you have friends, you have family. You got us pro trainers. Send us a quick email. I'm going through this chapter. Now, I'm not going to give you all the information because that's what the course is for, but what I can do is give you some more resources. Any pro trainer can direct you to get more information for learning. There's going to be chapters that get you excited. And I think that's the opportunity to really tap into those ones and really feel comfortable with it. I get really excited about muscles because, again, it's amazing what the human body can do. So I love to learn about that. So when I was learning, again, to be an instructor, that was one thing I really tapped into. So just take the time, sit down, find a space, go through the textbook, go through the manual, reading it, try to understand it, and make lots of notations because we can clarify that in the course itself.
Absolutely. And we want to also point out in your amazing manual that you will receive as being a student in our live courses through the certification program, there are review questions for you to answer at the back of each chapter and key points, key summary points. So please make sure you use that this time now to prepare for the live course by actually going through the manual and answering some of those review questions in your own words as well. We want to encourage you to prioritize what we consider to be self-learning topics. And so really the first 5 chapters in the manual are self-learning topics. So yes, your pro trainer is absolutely going to review these with you in your live course. And we're going to make sure that we apply it as something that is very practical for how to use these concepts in creating and facilitating your group workouts for your classes. So go through these chapters, and we're just going to touch upon them really quickly now. Understanding yourself and your class. Amazing chapter 1. I love this chapter because it really talks about helping folks adhere to exercise. And you know, a lot of the population has a struggle with committing to a consistent movement routine and finding exercise that they're bringing into their life on a regular basis. And maybe that's what's inspiring you to become a certified fitness instructor specialist. So there's some great strategies there for helping folks adhere to exercise on a regular basis. Just some great concepts there. Bioenergetics, how the body creates and uses energy. So understanding these concepts, the different energy systems before you come to your live course means that we can help you put together a high intensity interval training program, for example, and learn about in the moment, are we using an aerobic energy system or an anaerobic energy system? So we can actually go through and create very practical ways to learn this material that you've already reviewed the theory of in the manual. Cardiorespiratory concepts, same thing, how the heart works, how the blood flows through the body. And we're also looking at something you're going to hear a lot about in the course, which is one of the CanFitPro training principles called FIT: frequency, intensity, time, and type. So for a cardiovascular conditioning in the general population of Canadians, we want to make sure that they are, we're encouraging our participants to do a certain amount of cardio, for how frequently per week, the intensity that they might choose, the time, the type. So that information is in this chapter 3 for cardiorespiratory. And you're going to want to know that because you're a coach. As a fitness instructor specialist, you're a coach, a mentor, and a teacher to your participants. So you're going to need to know this information so you can coach folks appropriately. Same thing with skeletal anatomy. So here's our bones. It's also joints, different types of joints, how the joints move, anatomical position. This is important to know just so we can understand how the body is moving, side to side, front to back, etc., flexion, extension, all of the joint movements, really important as we get into things like putting together a muscle conditioning component of your class. So you don't need to know all 206 bones. You really need to know, there's I think 11 in the manual that are part of a beautiful illustration. And don't worry, you don't need to learn all of them, memorize all 206, but you certainly need to know those 11. So make sure you start to know where your clavicle is, etc. Chapter 5, the muscular anatomy and flexibility concepts. So again, we're going to learn the major muscles of the body. And when you get to your live course, the pro trainer is going to take you through how to put together a muscle conditioning class or section of your class. And we're going to put into practice like what movement actually works the deltoids and what are some options so that we can progress this exercise or regress this exercise to make it harder or easier for different participants. So we want to always be thinking about multi-level teaching in our group fitness classes. So this is how we're going to take this theory you're learning before you come to the live course and then apply it in the course itself to these very practical ways so we can teach you those options to give to participants for different exercises. And in the chapter 5, You're also going to learn about the FIT, frequency, intensity, time, and type for resistance training or muscular conditioning, as well as stretching. So Ron, is there anything that you wanted to add here about these self-learning topics?
I think the only thing that I would recommend, again, like Beth has said, going through them, understanding them, but we all learn differently. And I think that's the important part. So some of us are not book learners. So sitting down and reading a manual from front to back sometimes makes it very intimidating. So I'm not one of those learners either. So for me, I'm more of a doer. But what I've learned from experiences is that going through the manual, whatever course, whatever thing I'm learning, is taking the time to go through it so that when I attend a live course, for example, the FIS, I have questions already created. Now, I'm not going to spend the whole component of the course with my hand up in the air asking questions, because the pro trainer will get to me eventually. But for example, chapter 2 is always a tough one. Again, we need that tactile. So I love to see that tactile. We need movement. So trust me that going through it, even if you don't feel 100% confident in the material, that's okay. Because that's what us pro trainers are going to do in the live course. We're going to take you through the chapters. We're going to take you through so you do understand it. And we're going to assist you with that. Have questions ready. So when you come into the course, we'll be able to answer it and make it applicable.
Awesome. All right, Ron, why don't you tell us a little bit more about some tips we have for preparing for your live course?
So as an FIS pro trainer, FIS is my passion and my love. And this is the part of the slide I get really excited about, because it's actually movement. You get to move and you get to do things. So things that we recommend, or things that I've seen very consistent, is know what you want to teach, have an idea what class format you want to teach, and then be prepared to go outside of that. Because group fitness is so diverse, there's so many different things you can do. There's so many options. Knowing that you're going to be uncomfortable, you may have to do some choreography. You may have to do a lot of strength training. You may have to learn a dance-inspired movement. Be prepared to be open, because fitness industry changes so much, and we're giving you the base information to go forward into the world. So going through and taking other classes, going to the gym that you teach at, taking a variety, listening to how the instructor teaches. How does that instructor coach and cue you through strength conditioning, through movement patterns? What do they say? How do they say it? These are the things that will help you to communicate. They're going to help motivate. So how you say this, what you say, but how you say it, the eye contact. Who are you teaching to? Who are they teaching to? Do you feel like in the class, do you feel like they're looking at you and that it's just you and them? Are they getting to the whole entire group? Online courses, online classes, different resources there. Looking to see what can you experiment with. There's a lot of free sample classes out there, a lot of digital, a lot of DVDs. The ironic part is I have some old school VHS from back when I first started. And I tend to pull it out every so often and go through, and it's not the movements, because again, this is 25 years old, but listening to how they teach to the person, how they communicate, things like this, that is what we're trying to capture. And how people inspire doesn't change too much. It's trying to figure out how they do it. So going back to the old videos, going back to the old DVDs, maybe your parents have an old VHS. I do have a Jane Fonda one that I pull out every so often, and it's the share one. And again, it's understanding how do they teach it to us, and how do they inspire us, and why we do it. Why am I there watching this? What am I trying to get from it? So taking the time before your course to do some research, I could say, communicate, how to motivate, what are they saying and how do they say it? The instructor that you go to, what is it that draws you to them? What qualities, and if you had to pick 3, what are those things that they do that inspires a class? Why is that class so busy? Why is it so full? So things like that.
Yes, isn't it Oprah who says it's not how what you say, it's how you make people feel. I might be confusing the person who quoted that quote, but it's true. It's how you make someone feel in your class as a group fitness instructor. So you going as a participant right now, when you're starting your certification journey, is absolutely going to support you in thinking critically about things that you like that the instructor does, things that you don't like. And I remember when I first started out, I brought a notebook with me to classes or kept it in my gym bag so that after I took a class with another instructor, I would jot down different coaching cues that they use that really resonated with me so that I could, you know, recreate them and make them my own. So if that is something that works for you, then use your phone and just, you know, your notes app or whatever, and go ahead and make some notes about certain movement patterns that you like, certain exercises that flowed well together, and different talking points that the instructor used. And, you know, when Ron was saying, if you think about the top 3 characteristics of an instructor that, you know, makes you feel amazing when you take their class, it's probably more around the personality pieces than all of their vast knowledge that they have. So yes, it's so important to have technical knowledge about the body and how it works and how to facilitate a group fitness program and use music, but it's really how you're going to make someone feel. So I'm really glad that Ron brought that point up. Something else I want to add here is start to learn to remember people's names and use them, because that makes people feel in your class really like they're part of something bigger than just coming to their own personal workout. This is community. This is community building, whether you're doing it online or live in a group class. So keeping in mind that learning people's names and using them in a helpful way, not to center somebody out in a class, but to encourage them or to point out when they're doing something amazing, or just to talk to them one-to-one before and after class. It's a really important technique that isn't super hard once you start putting it into practice. And Ron was also mentioning that we have you know, amazing online resources, including the CanFitPro FIS, different types of styles of fitness we have available for you as videos, digital videos available on YouTube for you. As you come into your certification, you do have to get familiar with different styles of group fitness: dance-based, martial arts-based, boot camp, traditional. So all of those are available to you, and you should be checking those out and actually doing those workouts. And I will say, Ron is featured as our step instructor in the step portion of the FIS different videos that we've created for you. And his step class is phenomenal. So please go and do that. And if you don't have a step at home anymore, if you're practicing at home, then you can always just pretend that there's one there, and or maybe make some tape on the floor and create your own little step or whatever. But I have to say, Ron, I love your step class.
Oh, thank you, Beth. That's very, very sweet. The last thing I do want to throw in real quick is when you attend classes as being prepared to take the course, talk to the instructor afterwards. If you get that opportunity, just to approach them to let you know you're going through your certification, you're really excited. You know, coming to your class as a participant, just so the instructor is aware, because sometimes I know it's like I'll take notes and the instructor's like, is something wrong? Is there a problem? So just letting the instructor know that you're starting your journey, and a lot of times that instructor is going to get really excited to hear that you've chosen their class to kind of observe or to check out. So create that communication, because that's also the start of your networking too, is just talking to them.
Very good point, Ron, because you absolutely want to find a mentor if you can to support you in your certification. So once you're done your live course, or even while you're in it, to be able to team teach with another established instructor. So that's something that I like to do for my students. If I can help partner them with a mentor, you know, I love to do that. I've had some of my students mentor with me over the years, where they come to the classes I'm teaching already and they teach a small component. I usually get people just starting with the stretch, because you don't have to necessarily do that to music. I mean, music is playing, but it's a little harder to keep your stretch you can just kind of flow it with the music that's happening in the background. So that's a really good place to start. You're kind of putting together your class, but yeah, introduce yourself to instructors in your community so that, you know, there may be opportunities to mentor and team teach. Because you're going to want to get their feedback as you start to put together your different components of your fitness class. All right, I'm going to move on to a really amazing resource we do have available for you. It's called the FIS Study Preparation. This is an online course. It is optional, but it's really going to help you prepare for your theory exam. And, you know, keeping in mind that a lot of us are adult learners and we're coming to the certification program without having taken a course for a long time. So this is something our students were asking for. We absolutely wanted to put it together with extra videos to review those competencies that are required for a successful fitness instructor specialist. And there are there's amazing content in this online course and some great quizzes that will just get you into the groove of actually answering your theory exam questions, similar types of questions, you know, the multiple choice, how it's set up, and it reviews all of the answers with you in the actual course. So it's quite sophisticated in terms of how it really reviews the content of your live course, and it's available for you. If you haven't purchased it with your certification bundle, then you can go ahead and log into your canfitpro member portal and purchase that at a later date. It's always available for you if you need it, but we do recommend it. Okay, Ron, do you want to talk about sharing your certification journey?
So your certification journey is something that you need support with. And I guarantee that the day that you explain to your family you're going to sign up to be a group exercise leader, they got excited. The first thing they're asking or telling you is that, okay, when you're done, I'm coming to your class. So you already have a large support behind you. And I guarantee that your family, your friend, they're all ready to support you. So this is the time when you need to tap right into them and to get their assistance. Throughout the course, what's going to happen is you're going to have to do homework. You're going to have to prepare. So when it comes to preparing for, you know, down the road, your practical component for your exam, you need to teach a class. So instead of just writing down the information and now go teach it, practice. You need to practice and practice and practice. The more practice you do, the more comfortable you feel. Because believe it or not, it seems that the first time we stand in front of a group, it's always the most unnerving. Sometimes people saying, but I do better without, you know, people I don't know. But I find doing it with the people you know, with your friends and family, they're going to be able to support you and they'll give you the feedback that's positive and making you feel successful, which is what we need to start with. So taking the time to, when you start putting together, just practice simple movements in front of your group. A squat. In a strength conditioning exercise, a squat is a fantastic movement pattern, but how do you teach it without touching someone? Because in group exercise, we have to verbally coach, cue, and correct. So this is the opportunity for your friends and family for you to start teaching them these basic exercises, or just how to move when you're coaching and cueing them. Are you able to do it? Again, if it's to music, getting onto the beat, finding that 32 count. The more you practice with real life people, the easier it becomes. It just takes a bit of time. When it comes to using your friends and family, get them to help you create questions for exam questions. So what I mean by that is when you are going through the manual, you're going through all of this information, you start to feel kind of comfortable with it. So having someone else create questions, because then you're almost teaching them something. So then you're able to understand the whys behind it, not just saying it verbatim. So you're not just reading the manual and you're just memorizing it, but you're actually understanding the whys behind it, because you're actually educating your friend and or family member about that. So it's more beneficial, I find, to understand the whys, not just to straight and memorize everything. They want, lots of friends and family get excited on this journey that you're taking, this is the opportunity to let them know what you're doing, but maybe they want to be part of it. So letting your friends know that, you know what, I'm being an instructor. Is this something you want to do? Because maybe it's people in your group exercise classes that you're taking, and you kind of let them know what's going on. Bringing them with you also. What we find when people come in with friends or family members, I've had parents and siblings, I've had spouses, and just good workout friends, they do it together. And it's like their support group. They help each other out. They're working with each other. They're quizzing each other, things like this. So what I find is that those ones, they get really excited, and the more community that they're creating with each other. So having those people around you going through at the same time, it makes it the course much more, I don't know, more fun, you could say. Sitting there learning about book stuff, helping each other out, things like this. Engaging in a network a lot sooner. So, and that's the network you're creating in the course, before the course, in your classes, things like this. So this network, starting early, is going to be very beneficial, again, to support you, to help you. Because there is going to be times, again, when you're preparing for exams, the practical and or the theory, going for both, you need the time for them to help you, ask you questions, help you create flashcards, things like this. When you start teaching, getting ready for your practical examination, teaching some components to them. So when they know what's going on, they're ready to go, and they're going to be there to help and support you. So create that relationship with the people around you, let them know, and you'll be amazed on what they want to do to help, is what I find very successful going through your certification journey. So when you get that certification, they're ready to rock and roll with you.
I love that. When I first started teaching, I was using my roommates in university to be my first participants, because CanFitPro really recommends that you get a lot of hours under your belt of on the floor teaching. So it was on the floor in my basement of my rental house with a bunch of other students, and I was teaching them classes, and it was great. I mean, some of them couldn't follow along at all, and that was good because it helped me realize that there's going to be people of all different levels in my classes going forward, and I have to teach in a way that helps everyone feel successful, no matter what level or what ability or what experience they have in group fitness classes. So it's great to work with people who maybe don't usually go to classes, because they're the people you want to bring in, and you want to be able to ensure that you can teach to all levels. So really make sure you're not just picking the folks to practice with who are experts at going to classes. Pick people who maybe would be newcomers, because when you're teaching group fitness, you don't necessarily know everybody right at the beginning, and where they're coming from or what their background is in fitness. So that's just bringing us back to that multi-level teaching that's super important. All right, so Ron and I want to share with you now, really, to become a successful instructor, you have to be a successful instructor in your mind right now. So it's kind of like creating this identity like you already are as a very successful instructor, because that's what you're becoming through the certification journey. So you've got to take into account some of these characteristics that are really important. And a lot of this is in that chapter 1 of the manual, just knowing yourself and your class. So I think you're really going to like that chapter. But we have a couple activities we want to do right now, just to review with you, and perhaps you want to take a pen and some paper and jot down some ideas here. Ways that you can develop the characteristics of a successful fitness instructor. So first thing is communicate clearly. So that is obviously essential. We use different techniques when we're teaching group fitness to communicate, to coach, and to cue. So cueing, remember, is just telling the participants what movement is coming next and which direction we're going. Coaching is really the mechanics of the movement. So sharing that, when you're lunging, you want to keep your knee over your ankle. You want to keep your posture stacked. You want to keep your core engaged. So we use different cueing and coaching methods. We use verbal methods, and we use nonverbal methods, pointing to the direction we want to go in, for example, or smiling, using body language and looking at folks in the eye. So Ron mentioned eye contact, really important to bring people in and feel like they're part of this workout experience as a group. So thinking about how to communicate clearly and start practicing this now. So one way you could try this is to describe an exercise technique in words only. So, what are you saying to somebody if it's somebody that you have at home with you, or maybe you can video yourself or FaceTime, Skype, webcam, web call somebody and have them do a squat. And what kinds of words would you be using to tell them what to do without actually physically doing a squat and like visually demonstrating it yourself? Also then trying to teach an exercise without words. So getting yourself into position in a squat, for example, going through that movement pattern, really pointing to the parts of your body that you want to bend from, your hips, you obviously you're not saying this, but you're actually going through it, core engaged, looking at folks in the eye, again, really just trying to teach without using words, because the visual is a huge component of teaching group fitness. Think about it. Sometimes the folks can't even hear you. They're really relying on looking at you and your body language and your visual sort of nonverbal cueing and coaching to understand what the next movement's going to be or how to do it properly. And then I want to talk about musicality here as well. Super important to start listening to music. Now, you can find fitness music. canfitpro also provides it. We do have thinking about any kind of music you might even hear on the radio that is contemporary music. It's almost always in 4/4 time. And so you want to start counting down from 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Don't say 2 and 1. Ron likes that. Because count number 2 and count number 1 is when you're actually going to be cueing the next movement. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, hamstring curl or something. So if you start listening to music, when you're commuting, when you're out for a walk or a run, just at home, you can actually try to hear that beat. I've had a lot of dancers, you don't have to be a dancer, but I have had dancers come through my courses over the years, and they're used to counting from 1 to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember in group fitness, we're counting down from 8 because we want to tell people how many repetitions are left before we move to the next exercise. So start listening to music and start hearing that beat and the phrase of the music. So you can kind of hear, like, when the chorus is happening, that's typically a phrase. It's usually like a 4/4 time, a count of 8. Ron, do you have any suggestions about musicality? I know you're a pro at this.
Musicality was a struggle when I first started. And I always tell all my participants that who come to the FIS program, I struggled with it very desperately. And it was my mentor who sat me down in front of the stereo and listened to cassettes and listen to the beat and listening to how the music is created. You don't, the understanding the bridge and all this kind of information is helpful again for for choreography. But if you're using it for just movement patterns, like for strength conditioning, understanding the beat, understanding what we call the 32 count phrase. So again, like Beth said, listen to music. In my car when I'm driving to my class, I'll have the music I'm going to use playing, so I'm prepared for it. So knowing the music that I'm going to use in class is a must. And then listening to it and finding that and counting down 4, 3, 2, grapevine, or, doing that. I do choreography, right? I'm bopping along. I have come to the stoplight and I'm, yelling out, and my motivations, and the people beside me are looking over like, is there something wrong with that person? So listening to music. Listening to fitness music is slightly different than what we hear on the radio. In fitness music, the majority of it is what we're going to say in 32 count. So every 32 counts, there's a change. Now, with regular music, it's not all 32. So you may hear one of your favorite artists, whatever song it may be, and then all of a sudden there's an extra 4 counts. So listening to different types of music, listening radio versus fitness, being aware of those kind of changes, because sometimes that can mess people up. So fitness music, again, canfitpro, we offer the music. I recommend using that when you're starting your journey for sure. Listen to it again, know that music, know it inside and out, know when you hear a chorus, know when you hear that change. And it really is just playing it over and over and over again.
And you do want to be using fitness music in your classes, because your classes are typically for commercial use, where someone is making money for being there and putting together the program and teaching it to certain kind of music. And so keeping in mind that fitness music, the royalties have been paid so that that artist received royalties so that their music could be used in a fitness format. So that's what you should be using in your class. It absolutely gives you the structure that is super motivating to folks. We know that music is a motivator. So you, again, don't have to be dancey to be a group fitness instructor, but you need to be able to hear the beat and the phrase of the music and put your movements to it so that you can really give that structure to your class and use music as a huge motivator for folks. So I want to put that out there as well. And another tip that we don't have on the slide right now is to start working out and talking through your workout. So even if it's just your own personal workout, let me tell you, when you start putting together movements and coaching and cueing verbally, your cardiovascular endurance is going to improve. You may feel breathless if you aren't used to doing a workout and cueing, coaching, speaking verbally throughout. So I recommend putting some music on, doing a workout, whether it's, if it's at home or you're just doing something online through a digital or video method, then try to talk a little bit while you're doing it. Maybe talk out loud what cueing or coaching you might do during that movement so that you can at least experience what it's like to speak, cue, coach verbally as well as doing the workout. Now, keep in mind, you won't be doing the workout necessarily full out. When you are teaching a group, remember, it's not your workout. When you're teaching a group, it's their workout. You are the facilitator and the party host of that group workout. So you don't necessarily have to be doing it at your highest level, but it does still takes a little bit of endurance, cardiovascular endurance conditioning to be able to do the movements. And you're also thinking about what's coming next. And you're thinking about what education points you want to provide and that you're taking care of everybody in the room. Like, there are a lot of components to consider. So get used to talking and exercising at the same time. Any thoughts about that, Ron?
Totally agree with that. Having when you create your class, creating point note information. So when you're talking about, the squat or bicep curl or whatever it may be, having a few points written down that you want to highlight, and then start practicing teaching it. When do you want to say those kind of important things? Is it something you want to talk about breathing? We want to make sure during the stretch we're actually breathing and not holding our breath. When you're doing a strength conditioning exercise, you need to breathe. You need to talk about those kind of things, alignment. There's a lot of information that we have to give to our participants in a very short period of time when you're teaching a class. So it's coming up with those point form things and then actually practicing it and actually rehearsing it. So I'm very honest with my students in my FIS course, and I tell them that for a 1 hour class, you may spend a couple hours to prepare for it. Just so you can feel comfortable and make sure you're getting all the information. Because again, like Beth was saying, when you're trying to coach and cue as you're doing the exercise, especially if it's a boot camp concept or maybe a high interval, you may not be doing the highest interval that you normally would in your workouts, but you're still working pretty hard and you still have to correct, coach, cue, make it entertaining, have some fun. There's a lot of different elements that's going to hit you all at once. So practicing, videotape yourself. I know videotaping is very uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially when we're starting, because we're so hard on ourselves. But listening, I videotape myself and I listen to what I'm saying. May not be visual, but how am I saying it? What am I saying? Am I getting the points that I wrote down across? So little things like that I find to communicate is very beneficial.
Yes, finding those concise, clear cues are essential for sure. All right, let's move on to being knowledgeable. So remember, you have a lot of folks coming into your live course, as well as the knowledge and experience of your pro trainer to help you get to the next level in the certification journey. So, looking for folks who are other specialists that would be outside of your scope of practice as a fitness instructor specialist. Super important to know a nutritionist, to know a physio, to know personal trainers if you're working out of a gym, because there's going to be people who have lots of questions for you who come to your classes. And it's great to be a connector as a group fitness instructor, and then you can connect to folks who have a different knowledge base than you do to learn for yourself, but also to refer your participants to if they have additional questions about certain topics that you're not as knowledgeable about. And then the curiosity and connection. So you are a connector as a group fitness instructor. Again, this is a community building opportunity. You get to be, at the forefront of making those crucial connections in the world of, just everybody's on social media. It's obviously a very helpful tool, and we can create online classes and online workouts for folks. And then when we take that into a live in-person experience, to be able to connect, instruct the participants to each other, and to make those introductions. I've made amazing introductions over the years with some of my participants that's led to great new friendships, finding a babysitter for their kids, new job opportunities. Like, it's pretty cool, the power that happens within the network that is your group classes. So really being open to making those kinds of connections, and then having that growth mindset. So that's being okay with being a little bit vulnerable, being okay with making mistakes because you're going to learn from them, being okay and open to feedback, is so important. And that's that growth mindset, to be curious about what could I do better. I mean, Ron and I have been teaching for over 20 years each, and we are always trying to improve. This is the great thing about the fitness industry. It is really the most innovative, fun, positive industry you could ever work in. And canfitpro is at the center of providing leading education for fitness professionals across Canada. And so there is always more to learn, and there are always skills that even Ron and I are still trying to improve for ourselves as instructors. So really having that growth mindset. And then as a connector, again, you're really making participants feel welcome. So that might be the key to having a following of your classes. So having people who are your regulars, who love coming to your class, because you did get to know their name, you did make them feel welcome, you introduced them to other people in the class, you made sure that they had the equipment that they needed for the class if they've never taken, a muscle conditioning class before, how to get out those barbells, how to set them up. Perhaps they haven't taken a HIIT class or any kind of specialty class, and you want to make sure that they feel successful and that they come back. So checking in with them after. Any suggestions here from you, Ron, about being curious and being a connector?
The biggest thing that my experience that I've learned is over my career, when I first started, it was STEP. That was what I started with, and that I think if I ever finish, that's going to be the last modality. But at the time, there was only 3 types of classes we had of group exercise back in the day, right? It was only 3. Now look at it, right? So it changes. And what I love about this is the FIS program. It gives you the base knowledge to understand how the body moves. It gives you the base understanding of how to put together a class for people who want to move and be healthy. So we're teaching you all the safety components. We're teaching you why the body does what it does. That's the springboard. Once you have this, the sky is literally the limit. There has been so many different types of group classes and formats. It's education. Again, I started with STEP, and now I think I have 12 to 13 different types of class formats that now I teach, ranging from TRX to mind body to you name it. And I always go back to The group certification is my base knowledge. This is my foundation. This is what we build a house. This is my basement. This is where everything starts from. So from this point, it's what do you want to do with it? When we start, we get kind of freaked out. We pick the one type of class, which is great because then you become a master at it. But after that, you'll be amazed on what other things are out there. So this is a very exciting part about being curious. When you attend a conference, the amount of different levels of education, the different workshops, the different formats, I get excited. I go to every conference I can get my hot little hands on. So I'm so looking forward to all the different ones in all the different provinces, and of course always the big one that's held in Toronto every year. But this is where your curiosity is going to help you learn.
Yeah, and you can tell from our enthusiasm about what we do that we are so happy you're here with us. So thank you for coming and thank you for watching today. We are so grateful that you decided that you were going to take this step and become a canfitpro certified fitness instructor specialist. It is such an amazing industry to work in. And like Ron said, sky is the limit about where you can grow. And just a little point about that it is scary. Please don't be overwhelmed. We're going to take your hand and lead you through every component that you need to know in your live course. We're going to help you build and develop those skills that are your foundational pieces to group fitness. But it's when we lean into those things that we're a little bit scared of that we really develop and grow as people. And if you had the idea that you were supposed to be leading group fitness classes, then this is the right place for you. You are meant to, because just think about the amazing experiences people are going to have with you and how you are going to impact folks in a positive way by being a group instructor.